The space station Orion's Edge floated silently above the blue-green planet of Aurelian. It was a calm day in the station's docking sector, and most crews were busy with small repairs, cargo checks, and supply runs. For Milan, a young human technician, it was just another ordinary shift. Milan was crouched beside a cargo panel, fixing a stubborn power relay. His hands were smudged with grease, and a small toolkit lay open beside him. He liked working in the quieter corners of the station, away from the noise of the busy trading decks. It gave him time to think and to dream. He often wondered what life was like beyond the familiar trade routes in the deep, unknown parts of the galaxy. The intercom crackled suddenly. "Attention all personnel," said the calm but firm voice of Captain Rios, the station commander. "Unscheduled docking request detected. All crews, stand by." Milan paused mid-repair. Unscheduled docking requests were rare. Out here on the edge of Valari space, most ships announced themselves well before arrival. This was different. He glanced through the small maintenance window beside him. Out in the black of space, a massive ship was approaching. Its hull shimmered with a strange metallic blue-green, and the design was unlike anything Milan had seen before. It wasn't boxy, like human freighters or sleek like Alliance patrol ships. It was elegant, almost alive in shape, with long, sweeping curves and glowing lines that ran across its surface like rivers of light. The station's automated docking arms began to extend. Whoever these visitors were, they hadn't fired weapons, but their ship radiated an air of power. It was the kind of power that didn't need to be shown. It was simply there, undeniable. Milan closed his toolkit and hurried to the docking bay. A small crowd of workers, traders, and security officers had gathered. The atmosphere was tense. The docking bay doors hissed open with a deep mechanical sigh. The alien ship connected to the station, and a boarding ramp extended. A moment later, they appeared, tall, graceful. Each figure wore armor that shone like polished stone, with patterns carved into the surface. Their skin had a pale silver tone, and their eyes glowed faintly, as if holding their own light. They moved in perfect formation, silent and sure. And then she stepped forward. She was taller than the others, her presence commanding without needing to raise her voice. A crown-like structure of smooth crystal rested on her head, catching the light in soft, shifting colors. Her robe was layered over armor, flowing behind her like a moving tide. Her eyes, deep, bright, and impossibly calm, swept across the crowd before settling on Milan. Milan blinked. He had never seen her before in his life, but in that moment he felt as though she had been searching for him. The security chief, Darren, stepped forward. "Welcome to Orion's Edge. Identify yourself and your purpose." The woman raised her chin slightly. Her voice was smooth, rich, and carried a weight that silenced the entire docking bay. "I am Queen Sarava of the Valari. We seek only temporary docking. There is one here I must meet." The Valari. Milan had heard of them only in stories, an ancient and distant people rarely seen in human-controlled space. Their empire was said to span worlds of silver seas and crystal forests, and their queen. Well, no human he knew had ever met her. Milan felt a strange shiver down his spine. One here I must meet? Could she mean someone else? Surely not him. The captain stepped forward with a polite but cautious tone. Your ship is cleared for docking, Your Highness. May I ask, who is this person you seek? Queen Sarava's eyes never left Milan. The human named Milan. The crowd turned to look at him. Milan felt his heart skip a beat. Why me? He was just a technician. He had never done anything that would attract the attention of royalty from another species. He stepped forward awkwardly. That's me. For the first time, the Queen's expression softened. She took a step closer, her guards parting to let her through. Without a word, she looked at him, really looked at him, as though studying every detail of his face. And then, in a voice that was neither cold nor angry, she said something completely unexpected. You'll regret this, human? Milan froze. Regret what? What had he done? Her words weren't a threat, though. There was no malice in her eyes. In fact, was that sadness he saw? Before he could speak, she moved forward and did something that left the entire docking base stunned. She hugged him. It wasn't a short, polite gesture. It was a deep, steady embrace, as if she had been waiting a long time to do it. Milan stood frozen, his mind spinning. He could feel the cool, smooth texture of her armor, the faint scent of something like rain and wildflowers. Her presence was overwhelming, yet strangely comforting. She pulled back, her eyes holding his for a brief moment longer. You will understand soon, she said quietly. But not here. Without another word, she turned and walked back toward her ship. Her guards followed, and in moments they were gone, leaving a silent, bewildered crowd behind. Milan's friend Taro, another technician, stepped up beside him. Okay? What just happened? Milan shook his head slowly. I have no idea. But, deep inside, a memory stirred, distant, faint and almost forgotten, a flash of a bright light, the sound of rushing wind. A tall figure bending over him when he was very small, shielding him from harm. Could it have been her? Before he could think more, the intercom called for him to report to the captain's office. Something told Milan that whatever had just begun was far bigger than a simple docking request, and in his heart, he knew one thing. His life on Orion's edge had just changed forever. Milan sat nervously in the captain's office. The room was small, with metal walls and a wide window looking out into space. Captain Rios stood by the desk, reading a digital report. Her eyes were sharp, and her voice carried the weight of authority. She finally looked up. Milan, do you know why the Velari Queen came here? Milan shook his head. No, Captain. I've never met her before. Rios studied him for a moment, as if trying to read his thoughts. The Velari rarely leave their territory. For their queen to personally dock here and speak only to you, that is no small matter. Milan swallowed. She said I would regret something. Then she hugged me. That last part made Rios raise an eyebrow. Hugged you? Yes. In front of everyone. Milan's voice carried both confusion and embarrassment. I don't know why. The captain leaned back in her chair. Whatever her reason, this is unusual. And unusual often means trouble. For now, stay cautious. If she contacts you again, I want to know immediately. Milan nodded, but a part of him felt the Queen's presence wasn't dangerous. Strange, yes. Mysterious, absolutely. But threatening, no. That evening, as the station lights dimmed for night cycle, Milan couldn't stop thinking about the way the Queen had looked at him. Her eyes had been searching, almost familiar. He kept recalling flashes of that childhood memory. Bright. Light, wind, a tall figure protecting him, but the details refused to come into focus. His comm device beeped. A message appeared. Milan, Docking Bay 2, come alone. The sender's name was simple. Sarava. Milan hesitated. This could be a bad idea. The captain had warned him, but his curiosity was stronger than his fear. Taking a deep breath, he left his small cabin and made his way through the quiet halls of the station. Docking Bay 2 was dimly lit, the only sound the low hum of machinery. The Volari ship loomed nearby, its curved surface glowing faintly under the station's lights. 2 guards stood at the ramp, their tall forms blocking the way. One of them stepped forward. "You are expected." His voice was calm but left no room for questions. They let him pass, and Milan walked up the ramp into the alien vessel. Inside, the air was cooler, carrying a scent like fresh rain. The walls were smooth and curved, almost organic in shape. Strange. Symbols glowed faintly along the corridors. Queen Sarava was waiting in a round chamber with a high ceiling. A soft light came from above, bathing the room in a gentle silver glow. She stood in the center, her hands folded in front of her. "Milan," she said, her voice warm but firm. "Thank you for coming." "I didn't really have a choice," he admitted, trying to sound braver than he felt. "Why did you ask to see me?" She studied him for a long moment. "Do you remember your childhood on the colony world of Brilora?" Milan's breath caught. "How do you know about that? That was years ago. I was only a child." "I was there," Sarava said quietly. "Your settlement was under attack by another species. I was on a diplomatic mission nearby. When I saw what was happening, I intervened." Milan's heart raced. The memory returned sharper this time. Flashes of fire, a loud roar, the ground shaking. And then, arms lifting him, shielding him from falling debris. A tall figure with glowing eyes. "It was you," Milan whispered. Sarava nodded. "Yes. I carried you to safety before the attackers were driven away. At the time, I thought I would never see you again. But the stars have brought our paths together once more." Milan felt a strange mix of gratitude and confusion. "But why tell me now? And what did you mean when you said I would regret this?" The Queen's eyes softened. "Because soon you will learn something that will change how you see your own people. And mine. Regret is not always about guilt. Sometimes it is about the weight of a truth we cannot ignore." Milan frowned. "You're speaking in riddles." Sarava allowed a small smile. "Perhaps. But you are not ready for the full truth yet. First, you must understand that the bond between humans and Volari is older than you have been told. Your ancestors once helped save my people. That debt is not forgotten." Milan didn't know what to say. His mind was spinning with questions. Before he could speak, the ship's intercom sounded with a low chime. A Volari officer entered and bowed slightly to the Queen. "Your Highness, the station's long-range sensors have detected unknown ships approaching. We believe they are not friendly." Sarava's expression grew serious. "How many?" "3, so far. But more may be cloaked." Milan looked from the officer to the Queen. "Is this because of me?" "Not directly," Sarava said, though her voice suggested the situation was connected in some way. "But you may be important in what happens next." She stepped closer, and placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. For now, you must return to your station and prepare. Stay near the central command decks. If the worst happens, I will find you. Milan nodded slowly. All right, but I still don't understand. You will, she said gently. Soon. As Milan left the Valari ship and walked back into the station corridors, he felt the weight of her words pressing on him. The Queen knew something big, that she wasn't ready to tell him. When he reached his quarters, Taro was waiting outside. Where have you been? The station's on alert. Something's coming in fast. Milan hesitated. I was talking to the Queen. Taro's eyes widened. Again? Milan, whatever's going on, you're in the middle of it now. And that's not always a good place to be. I know, Milan said quietly. But deep down, he wasn't afraid. Not exactly. More than anything, he felt a pull toward the mystery, as if his life had been slowly leading him to this moment. And in the distance, somewhere out in the cold dark of space, unknown ships were drawing closer. The next morning, Orion's edge was buzzing with tension. Every corridor seemed busier, every voice a little sharper. Word had spread fast. 3 unidentified ships had been spotted near the outer sensor range. The captain had ordered all defense, crews to be on standby. Milan walked toward the engineering deck, but his thoughts were far away. He kept replaying his conversation with Queen Sarava. She had saved him when he was a child. She knew something about humans and Valari that no one had told him, and she had warned him about a truth that might change everything. When he reached the engineering bay, Taro was already at his station, checking shield generators. You're late, Taro said, though his tone was more worried than annoyed. Sorry, Milan replied, setting down his toolkit. I didn't sleep much. I wonder why, Taro said dryly. Maybe because the Valari Queen personally asked for you. Twice. He lowered his voice. People are starting to notice. The guards saw you walking to her ship last night. You're getting attention, and not the good kind. Milan tightened a bolt and tried to ignore the comment, but he knew Taro was right. Several crew members had been giving him curious or suspicious looks since yesterday. Later in the day, the station's PA system crackled to life. Security alert. All personnel remain at assigned posts. Docking sectors 1 through 4 are under restricted access. Milan looked at Taro. Restricted access? That's where the Valari ship is. Docked. Before Taro could answer, a figure appeared in the doorway. It was Chief Darren, head of station security. His eyes locked on Milan. Milan, you're coming with me. Milan blinked. Why? The captain wants to know exactly what the Valari. Queen told you, and I mean exactly. The security office was brightly lit and cold. Captain Rios stood near the center, arms crossed, while Darren waited near the door. Milan, Rios began, the Valari have offered to help defend the station if these unidentified ships turn hostile. That's generous. But they made a condition. They want you to be moved to their ship during the alert. Milan stared. Me? Why? That's what I want to know, Rios said. You spoke to the Queen twice. Did she tell you anything about these ships? No, Milan said honestly. She just reminded me that she saved me as a child. And she said I'd understand something soon. That's all. Rios studied him for a long moment, then nodded. All right. For now, you stay here. But if, She requests you again. I want to know before you set foot anywhere near that ship." "Yes, Captain," Milan replied, though he wasn't sure he could keep that promise if the Queen summoned him again. That night, Milan couldn't sleep. The hum of the station's systems was louder than usual, as if even the machinery sensed the tension. He got up, intending to take a walk to clear his head, but stopped when he noticed something unusual outside his window. The Valari ship's lights were pulsing in a slow, rhythmic pattern. It wasn't random. It looked like a signal. Milan's comm device vibrated. A short message appeared. "Come. Alone." He found himself walking the quiet corridors again, heading toward Docking Bay 2. The guards at the ramp didn't speak. They simply stepped aside. Inside, the same cool, rain-scented air greeted him. Queen Sarava was waiting in the same round chamber. Her posture was calm, but her eyes were sharper than before. "You came," she said softly. "You didn't give me much choice," Milan replied, though without anger. She gestured for him to sit at a curved table. Strange silver cups were already placed there, filled with a pale, glowing liquid. "What is this?" Milan asked. "A Velari drink called Sarian. It clears the mind." He took a sip. It was cool and faintly sweet, leaving a refreshing aftertaste. Sarava leaned forward slightly. "You have questions? Ask them." Milan didn't hesitate. "Why am I so important to you? Why did you say I'd regret something?" She was silent for a moment, as if weighing her words. "Because your life is connected to the fate of my people. And because the truth is not simple, it will bring both understanding and burden." "That doesn't answer much," Milan said, though he kept his voice respectful. She looked at him steadily. "Do you know what happened to the Valari 100 years ago?" Milan frowned. "Only what's in the history records. Your people fought a war with the Draviks and nearly lost." "True," Sarava said, "but the records do not tell you how we survived. It was not only our warriors who saved us. A group of human settlers on the edge of known space risked everything to shield our refugees from the Draviks' fleet. Without them, there would be no Velari today." Milan leaned back. "And you think I'm connected to those settlers?" "I don't think," she said quietly. "I know. Your ancestors were among them, and the courage they showed was remembered by my people for generations. When I found you as a child, I recognized your family name." Milan tried to process her words. "So, this is about a debt?" "Not a debt," she said firmly. "A bond, one that goes beyond politics. I believe you are meant to help us again." Before Milan could answer, the ship's intercom chimed. A Valari officer's voice echoed through the chamber. "Your Highness, the unidentified ships have entered close range. They are on an intercept course." Sarava stood, her robe flowing behind her. "It begins sooner than I thought." She turned to Milan. "Go back to your station. The captain will need you in engineering. And remember, when the time comes, trust me." Milan rose slowly. "I don't understand all of this yet." "You will," Sarava said, her voice calm even as the tension in the air grew. "Soon." As Milan left the Valari ship, he glanced back once. The guards were all ready, moving with more urgency, their armor catching the dim light. When he returned to the station's engineering bay, Taro was waiting. "Milan, you'd better get ready. The sensors show at least 6 ships now, and they're coming fast." Milan picked up his toolkit and looked toward the display screen. Out in the endless dark of space, 6 red markers crept closer to the station. Whatever was about to happen, he had a feeling it would test not just the station's defenses, but his own courage. And somewhere deep in his mind, the Queen's words echoed like a quiet promise. The alarm klaxons echoed through Orion's edge. Red lights flashed along the corridors, and the voice of Captain Rios came through the intercom, firm and steady. All crew to battle stations. This is not a drill. In the engineering bay, Milan, and Taro worked quickly, checking the shield systems and power grids. The air was tense, every sound sharper than usual. The hum of the station's main reactor seemed louder, as if it too was bracing for what was coming. On the main screen, the 6 unknown ships had stopped at the edge of weapons range. They were dark, sharp-edged vessels, their hulls black as empty space. Milan didn't recognize their design. "They're scanning us," Taro said, watching the readouts. "And they're not answering the captain's hails." Milan tightened a power conduit. "That's not good." Before Taro could reply, the door opened and Chief Darren entered with 2 security officers. He pointed directly at Milan. "The Queen is asking for you." "Now." Milan froze. "In the middle of a battle alert?" "She says it's important." Darren's tone made it clear there would be no argument. Minutes later, Milan stood again inside the Valari ship. The cool, silver-lit corridors seemed calmer than the station, but there was a quiet urgency in the way the crew moved. Queen Sarava was waiting in the same round chamber, though this time a large star map hovered in the air between them. "Milan," she began without preamble, "the ships outside are Zerath raiders. They have no interest in peace. They will test your stations, defenses, and if they find weakness, they will strike." Milan studied the map. The raiders' ships were shown in red, moving slowly but deliberately toward the station. "Why are they here?" "Because of me," Sarava said, "and because of you." Milan's brow furrowed. "Me? I'm just a technician." "Not to them," Sarava said firmly. "The Zerath know of the human settlers who once aided the Valari. They believe your family line carries something they fear, a symbol of unity between our peoples. If they capture you, they will use you as leverage to break that bond." Milan felt the weight of her words settle over him. "So, this is about history?" "It is about survival," Sarava corrected. "They would rather erase a symbol than face what it means." She looked at him with steady eyes. "When I hugged you, it was not only to honor what your family did, it was to shield you from the eyes of those who would see you as a target. But it seems the Zerath already know." Milan exhaled slowly, trying to process everything. "What do you want me to do?" "Stay here, under Valari protection, until this threat passes," she said. "We have the means to shield you in the station, but I must have your trust." Milan hesitated. "The captain will be told you are helping me coordinate defenses," Sarava interrupted. "And you will be. Our ships can merge their shields with the station's systems, but it requires someone who understands human engineering and Valari tech. That is you." Milan realized she was right. The Valari systems were elegant but complex, and most humans wouldn't know where to begin. "All right," he said finally. "Tell me what to do." The next hour was a blur of work. Milan sat at a console beside a Valari engineer named Soren, connecting the station's power grid to the Valari shield emitters. Strange symbols glowed on the screen, and Milan had to quickly learn what each meant. Soren's calm explanations helped. "Your systems are strong," Soren said, "but your power relays are not designed for continuous shield merging. We will need to balance the load." Milan typed in adjustments, his hands moving faster as the station shook faintly from a distant impact. "They're firing warning shots," Soren said. "Testing us." On the main display, the Zerath ships moved closer. Captain Rios's voice came through the link. "Valari ship, your shield integration is holding. Keep it steady. More incoming fire." Sarava's voice answered calmly. "We are steady, Captain, and we have Milan to thank for that." Hearing his name broadcast to both crews made Milan's face warm, but he kept working. The shield readings climbed steadily. Then the Zerath fired again, this time in full force. A deep, resonant vibration rolled through the Valari ship. Lights flickered. "Shields holding at 92%, Soren reported. "That's not enough," Sarava said, looking at Milan. "Can you increase the human reactor's output by 10% without overload?" Milan's mind raced through the engineering schematics. "Yes, but only if we reroute from non-essential sectors. I'll need the captain's approval." "You have it," Sarava said. "Do it." Milan sent the command through the link. Back on the station, Taro confirmed the changes. Power was diverted from lighting in unused decks, cargo lifts, and non-critical systems. The reactor's hum deepened. Shield strength climbed to 97%. The Zerath ships slowed, their attack pausing. "They're reconsidering," Soren said, studying the readings. Minutes passed. Then, unexpectedly, the Zerath ships began to retreat, their dark forms sliding back into the depths of space. A wave of relief swept through the Valari crew. Soren smiled faintly. "It seems they do not wish to test us further today." Milan leaned back in his chair, exhausted but relieved. "So, we did it?" "For now," Sarava said. "But the Zerath rarely give up. They will watch and wait for another chance." She stepped closer, her voice quieter now. "And that is why I must tell you more of the truth." They returned to the round chamber, the star map still glowing in the air. Sarava adjusted it, zooming in on a small, distant cluster of stars. "This is Valan's Rest," she said. "It is where the last alliance between humans and Valari was forged more than a century ago. Your ancestors stood there side by side with mine and swore to protect each other. That oath was never broken, until now." Milan looked at the map. "What happened?" "War happened," Sarava said, her voice tinged with sorrow. "The Draviks scattered us, and the humans who helped us were forgotten by their own people. But the Valari remember, and I believe the time has come to renew that oath. You can help us do that." Milan felt the weight of the decision pressing on him. He was just a station technician, but now he was standing in the middle of something much bigger. "I don't know if I'm the right person for this," he admitted. Sarava's gaze was unwavering. "You are exactly the right person. You have already acted with courage, even without knowing the full truth. That is why I believe in you." Milan didn't know what to say. Outside, the station returned to its usual hum, but inside the Valari ship, everything felt different. He realized that the Queen's hug on that first day had been more than a greeting. It had been a promise, and now that promise was calling him toward a future he could never have imagined. The day after the Zerath ships retreated, Orion's edge seemed calm on the surface, but the tension was still there. like a storm waiting beyond the horizon. Crew members moved quickly through the corridors, speaking in hushed voices. The station's long-range sensors were still tracking faint readings far out in space. Milan sat in the engineering bay running system checks. Taro leaned over his shoulder. "They're still out there, you know. Just because they pulled back doesn't mean they're gone." "I know," Milan replied. His hands moved over the console, checking the shield relays. "That's what worries me." Taro lowered his voice. "And I heard the Valari ship is staying docked until further notice. Some people think the Queen is using this as an excuse to get closer to the station's command." Milan frowned. "She's not here to take over. She's here to help." "You sure about that?" Taro asked, but his tone was more curious than accusing. Milan didn't answer. He knew the Queen's intentions were good, but convincing others was another matter. Later that day, the station held a meeting in the main briefing hall. Captain Rios stood at the front, with Queen Sarava beside her. "Crew of Orion's Edge," Rios began, her voice firm. "The Zerath threat has not passed. Our sensors confirm their fleet has doubled in size. They are gathering beyond our border." A murmur ran through the room. Sarava raised her hand for silence. "They will strike," she said, her voice carrying calm certainty. "And when they do, they will not stop at this station. They will move deeper into human and Valari space. That is why we must fight together now." Her eyes swept over the crowd, and for a brief moment, they rested on Milan. Rios continued. "The Valari have offered full military support. Their shield systems will merge with ours, and their weapons will be integrated into our defense network. But this requires a direct link between our command systems, something no human or Valari has ever attempted before." Sarava stepped forward. "And that is why I asked Milan to serve as our bridge." The room went silent. Milan felt every eye turned toward him. Taro whispered, "Looks like you're famous now." Milan stood slowly. I'm willing to help, but if this fails..." "It will not fail," Sarava said. "Not if we trust each other." Captain Rios gave a short nod. "Then it's decided. Milan, you'll work from the Valari ship during the coming battle. You'll have access to both systems and will coordinate shield and weapon synchronization." Milan felt the weight of the decision settle on his shoulders. He had never commanded anything beyond an engineering team, and now he was about to sit between two fleets in the middle of a war. Over the next hours, Milan worked with Valari and human engineers, connecting power relays, calibrating shield harmonics, and testing communication links. The work was exhausting, but it kept his mind from dwelling too much on the danger ahead. Soren, the Valari engineer he had worked with before, joined him at the main console. "Your human systems are flexible," Soren said approvingly, "but they are also untidy. Many paths lead to the same point." Milan smirked. "That's how humans build. We make things work, even if the design isn't perfect." Soren nodded thoughtfully. "Valari build for beauty and precision, but sometimes your way is stronger." As the preparations continued, Milan caught sight of Queen Sarava standing near the observation deck, looking out into the stars. Something in her expression made him walk over. "You're thinking about the Zerath," he said quietly. "I am. Thinking about what comes after," she replied without turning. "If we win, it will be because we stood together. But alliances are fragile things. The Zerath know this. They will try to divide us even in defeat." Milan frowned. Do you think they'll try to turn humans against Valari? They already have, Sarava said softly. Rumors, whispers, small seeds of mistrust. They do not need to destroy an enemy if they can make that enemy destroy itself. Milan realized then that this battle wasn't just about ships and weapons. It was about trust. That night, during the station's rest cycle, the sensors lit up with red alerts. The Zerath fleet was moving in fast. Captain Rios's voice came through the comm. All crews to battle stations. This is it, people. Milan hurried to the Valari ship where Soren was already at the console. Sarava entered moments later, her presence steady and calm despite the situation. Zerath ships will be in firing range in 6 minutes, Soren reported. Sarava turned to Milan. Begin the link. Milan's hands moved quickly over the controls, aligning the Valari shield grid with the stations. Lights flashed as the systems synced. A deep hum filled the ship as power flowed between them. The first Zerath shots came moments later, bright streaks of energy flashing across space. The combined shields flared, absorbing the impact. Shields holding at 95%, Soren said. Return fire, Rios's voice ordered over the link. The Valari ship's weapons joined the station's cannons, sending beams of brilliant light toward the attackers. One Zerath ship was hit, its hull glowing with heat before it pulled back. But more were coming. Dozens of them. Milan adjusted the shield harmonics, boosting weak points where the enemy fire was heaviest. The console flashed warnings, but he ignored them, pushing the systems harder. Careful, Soren warned. Too much strain and the link will break. We don't have a choice, Milan replied. If they break through, it's over. The battle raged on, the void between the station and the Zerath fleet lit with constant flashes. Milan could feel the vibrations of each impact through the deck. His heart pounded, but he kept working, his focus locked on keeping both systems in sync. Then Sarava's voice cut through the noise. Milan, look at Sector 7. On the display, a group of Zerath ships was breaking off, moving in a wide arc. Milan's eyes widened. They're trying to flank the station. Not if we turn to meet them, Sarava said. Adjust shield focus to the port side. Milan rerouted the power, the shields glowing brighter on the left, the attacking knee. Ships met the reinforced barrier and pulled back. Minutes felt like hours, but slowly the Zerath began to retreat. Their ships turned away, slipping back into the darkness. The battle was over, for now. The crew on both sides let out a breath of relief. Soren smiled faintly. You did it, Milan. The link held the whole time. Milan leaned back, exhausted. We all did it. Sarava stepped closer. This was only the first wave. They will return. And when they do, they will be stronger. Which means we must be stronger too. Milan nodded, already knowing he couldn't walk away from this. Whatever came next, he was part of it now. 2 days passed after the battle, and Orion's edge floated in uneasy quiet. The stars looked calm, but the crew knew it was only a pause before the storm. Repairs were still underway. Burn marks from enemy fire still scarred parts of the station's hull. Milan worked in the Valari ship's control room alongside Soren. They had been improving the shield link system, making it faster and more stable. Both of them were tired but determined. Soren checked the readings. Our connection speed is 30% faster now. That will help when the Zerath return. They won't wait long, Milan said, adjusting a calibration dial. They've seen what we can do. Now they'll try harder. That evening, Captain Rios called another meeting. The main briefing hall was crowded, a mix of human crew and Valari officers. Queen Sarava stood at the front, her expression calm but serious. Rios began. Scouts have confirmed it. The Zarath are coming back. This time they're bringing their heavy ships. A quiet tension spread through the room. Heavy ships were slow but carried weapons powerful enough to break through most defenses. Sarava stepped forward. We will not face them the same way we did before. This time, we will strike first. A few officers exchanged glances. It was unusual for Orion's Edge to take an offensive position. Milan raised a hand. Strike them. How? We will lure them into a trap, Sarava explained. We will project false shield weaknesses to draw them toward a chosen area. When they move in, we will concentrate all firepower at once. Rios nodded. But this requires perfect timing. If our systems aren't linked properly, the trap will fail, and we'll be the ones caught. Everyone knew what that meant. The responsibility would fall heavily on Milan and Sorin. Preparations began immediately. Milan spent hours running simulation after simulation. Some worked, some failed. But each time, he learned something new. Late into the night, Sarava visited the control room. She watched him work for a while before speaking. You do not rest enough, she said softly. I can't, Milan replied, not looking up from the console. If we get this wrong, the station could be destroyed. She stepped closer. And if we get it right, many lives will be saved. But you are human, Milan. You need rest to think clearly. He finally looked at her and smiled faintly. Valari don't need sleep like humans, do they? No, she admitted. But even we need moments of stillness. The next day, the warning alarms blared. The Zarath fleet had entered the system. This time, their ships were in tight formation, moving directly toward Orion's Edge, all. Stations, prepare for battle, Rios ordered. Milan and Sorin were already at their stations. The shield link activated smoothly, the two systems locking together as if they were one. Sarava stood behind them, her presence steady. Begin the projection, she commanded. On the tactical display, false shield gaps appeared on the starboard side of the station. To the Zarath, it would look like a weakness. They're taking the bait, Sorin said, as the enemy ships adjusted their course. As the enemy approached, the trap zone lit up on the display, a narrow section of space where the station's weapons and the Valari cannons could overlap for maximum firepower. Wait for them to enter. Rios's voice came over the comm. Milan's hands were tense over the controls. The Zarath ships were seconds away from the target area. His heart pounded. Now! Sarava commanded. All at once, the station and the Valari ship opened fire. Beams of energy and bursts of plasma tore into the enemy formation. Two ships were destroyed instantly, and several others broke apart under the barrage. But the Zarath responded faster than expected. Heavy ships at the rear opened fire, their powerful blasts hammering the shields. Shields down to 70%, Sorin called out. Milan adjusted the harmonics to absorb the worst of the damage, but the hits kept coming. The console flashed with warnings. They're targeting the link point, Milan realized. If they hit that, our systems will separate. Sarava's voice was calm but firm. Then we must not let them. Milan rerouted power through backup lines, but it meant pulling energy from other areas. The lights flickered. One of the Valari crew shouted that weapons power was dropping. We can't keep firing at full strength, Sorin warned. If we stop, they'll break through, Milan replied. His eyes scanned the display, looking for another option. Then he saw it. An asteroid drifting just beyond the battlefield. Soren, can we push that rock into their path? Soren looked doubtful. It would require a great deal of power. We'll borrow it from the secondary weapons grid, Milan said quickly. Trust me. With Sarava's approval, Milan diverted power and used the Valari ship's tractor beam. The asteroid began to move slowly at first, then faster, heading straight toward the heavy Zerath ships. The enemy realized too late. Two of their largest ships collided with the rock, breaking formation. The rest tried to scatter, but the trap zone became deadly again. Fire all remaining weapons, Rios ordered. The combined human and Valari firepower struck hard. Several more Zerath ships were destroyed and the rest began to retreat. The battlefield fell silent except for the hum of the shields. They're leaving, Soren said, relief in his voice. Milan leaned back in his chair, exhausted. His hands shook slightly, but he was smiling. That worked better than I hoped. Sarava stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. You think like a Valari sometimes, she said warmly. You see more than what is directly in front of you. But Captain Rios's voice reminded them it wasn't over. They'll regroup. This wasn't their full fleet. Everyone, prepare for the possibility of a final assault. Milan knew she was right. The Zerath would not give up easily. But now, after 2 victories, he also knew something else. Humans and Valari working together were far stronger than either alone. That night, as the crew repaired damage and reloaded supplies, Milan walked the observation deck. Sarava joined him. Tomorrow, she said, they may come again. And tomorrow, we may face our greatest test. Milan nodded. Then tomorrow, we fight again. And somewhere in the dark beyond the stars, the Zerath were already preparing their next move. The next morning, Orion's Edge was quiet, but it was the kind of quiet before a storm. The crew moved quickly, making repairs and checking systems. No one had to be told what was coming. From the command deck, Captain Rios looked out at the stars. Scouts report Zerath signals in multiple directions, she said. They're not sending a single fleet this time. They're sending everything. Milan stood at his station, adjusting the shield link one last time. Soren worked beside him, running calculations. Queen Sarava entered, her teal-blue eyes calm but focused. This is their final attack, Sarava said. If we hold today, we will not see them again for a long time. Hours later, the alarms rang. The main screen lit up with dozens of red signals. The Zerath fleet was massive. Rows of heavy ships, fast attack craft, and strange new warships that no one had seen. Before Rios gave the order, "All hands battle stations!" Milan took a deep breath and activated the shield link. The Valari systems hummed to life, merging with Orion's Edge's defenses. "Link stable," he said. Soren frowned at his display. "But their formation is different this time. They're splitting into 3 groups. One will hit us head-on. The other 2 will try to flank us." Rios pointed to the map. "If they surround us, the shields won't hold." Sarava stepped forward. "Then we must move. We will not wait for them to surround us. We strike at the first group before the others arrive." Milan quickly calculated the timing. "We have about 10 minutes before the second group reaches us." "Then we make those 10 minutes count," Rios said. The battle began with a roar of energy fire. The first wave of Zerath ships closed in fast, and Orion's Edge met them with heavy blasts from both human and Valari weapons. Enemy ships exploded in bright flashes, but more kept coming. Milan adjusted the shield harmonics to absorb direct hits, but each impact shook the station. Soren called out, "Shields at 80%! They destroyed the last of the first wave just as the second group arrived. This one was faster and more coordinated. "They're trying to punch through the starboard side," Milan shouted. Sarava gave the order. "Rotate the station. Bring the main guns to bear." The station spun slowly, its largest cannons now facing the incoming ships. Powerful blasts tore through the attackers, but the Zerath kept pressing forward. Then the third group appeared, and with it the largest Zerath warship anyone had ever seen. It was shaped like a jagged spear, black and silver with glowing red lines running across its hull. Soren's voice was tight. "That's a command ship. If we take it out, they may retreat." Milan studied the readings. "Its shields are stronger than ours. We can't break through with normal weapons." Rios looked at him. "Then what's our alternative?" Milan hesitated, then spoke. "We overload the shield link, push all power into one focused blast at the same time. Station weapons, Velari, cannons, everything. One shot." Soren's eyes widened. "That could burn out both systems. We'd be left without shields." "Yes," Milan said. "But if we don't, that ship will destroy us anyway." The room fell silent for a moment. Then Sarava said, "We take the risk." Rios nodded. "Do it." Milan and Soren began the overload sequence. Warning lights flashed, and the systems groaned under the strain. Energy readings climbed higher and higher. "Target locked," Soren said. Outside, the Zerath command ship moved closer, its weapons charging. Time was running out. Milan's hands hovered over the controls. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1, fire!" A blinding beam of combined human and Velari energy shot across space, striking the command ship's shields. For a moment, it looked like nothing happened. Then the red lines on the enemy hull flickered, and the shield collapsed in a burst of light. The beam tore straight through the command ship, breaking it in half. Both pieces drifted apart before exploding into massive fireballs. The remaining Zerath ships slowed. Without their command ship, their attack lost its coordination. Some began retreating immediately. Others were destroyed by Orion's Edge's guns. Within minutes, the battle was over. The last Zerath vessel jumped to hyperspace, leaving only silence behind. On the command deck, the crew cheered. Soren slumped back in his chair, exhausted. We actually did it." Milan let out a long breath. "And the systems didn't completely burn out." Sarava turned to them with a rare smile. "Today, humans and Velari fought as one. This victory belongs to both our people." Rios looked around the room. "Well done, everyone. Orion's Edge stands, and the Zerath are gone." That evening, the station was quiet again, but it was a peaceful quiet this time. The damage crews worked slowly, without the rush of battle. The stars outside seemed brighter. Milan stood on the observation deck, looking out at the empty space where the Zerath fleet had been. Sarava joined him, her hands folded behind her back. "You risked much today," she said. "So did you," Milan replied. She tilted her head. "Do you regret it?" "No," Milan said with a small smile, "because it worked, and because we're still here to see another day." Far away, the Zerath survivors would tell their people about the humans and the Velari, about the strange alliance that could not be broken. And perhaps they would think twice before attacking again. But for now, Orion's Edge floated in peace among the stars, a symbol of what two worlds could achieve together. The war was over, and a new chapter was ready to begin.